So, hi, welcome back to Fizz and Tell. We've had a little bit of a break because I've been rather busy doing lots of other things, and I'm now back into doing Fizz and Tell. And today I'm really excited that I'm kicking this back with an old veteran friend of mine and colleague from the industry, the wonderful Lorraine Adams, who's the founder of two incredible businesses. Lorraine, do you want to tell us what you do? Because you've got this wonderful club and you've got this directory. So please introduce yourself, and then we are going to deep dive. So hold on tight, people.
Oh,
We
wonderful.
are
I'm
going to
looking forward
deep
to
dive
it.
on everything to do with relationships post-COVID, because so much has changed, whether you're single or if you're in a relationship, so much has changed. Lorraine, welcome, and thank you for taking time today to talk to
Oh,
us.
good morning, Genevieve, and it's an absolute pleasure. It's really nice to see you again. I'm the founder of Club Introductions and also the Dating Directory, which is a dating comparison site. So I'm really excited to be speaking to you today, and to be able to talk about the things that have changed. I mean, things have changed dramatically, but especially over the last kind of 4 or 5 years. So
They really
yeah, there's a lot gone on.
a lot's gone on, and I think a lot's gone on emotionally, psychologically,
Mm,
and physically for a lot of people since COVID. I mean, you and I have gone
mm.
through, I think we're in our third decade now, both of us of this
Absolutely.
industry. We really are. We're the last two veterans and grannies of the dating
Yeah,
industry here in the UK.
absolutely.
And I think we've both collaborated so nicely over the years, and it's wonderful.
Mm.
We get to talk. I know there's loads of nuggets when we're doing conferences and everything else. But I think for clients and for people who are in relationships or who are single, trying to find love, the one thing I've seen is there are more single people post-COVID than we've ever had in any other period of time. I don't know if you're finding the same thing.
I agree. I agree. And I've also seen there's so many more men that have come into the matchmaking arena, especially. Years ago we were always struggling for men, and I think that's one thing men do to seem to be taking that extra step. I mean, we all know that dating apps are overwhelmingly made up of men. Usually 70% men to 30% women, and their behavior on dating apps is very different. Men and women's behavior is very, very different. But coming into matchmaking, it's quite good to see, especially the younger men, the millennials, and younger. It just feels that yeah, that's one of the biggest changes that I've seen. Men are opening up a little bit more and coming into the matchmaking arena.
I think it's because they're struggling, aren't they, to find a proper relationship. And I think relationships as a whole have changed. It's not just single or in a relationship anymore. There's so
Mm,
many connotations about being
yeah,
fluid, being monogamous, being polyamorous. There's so many different types of relationships around. I'm having people come to
yeah,
me saying to me, I don't know what I want. And I think this is
yeah,
something that has really surprised me, both in matchmaking and as a coach, is working with people
mm,
that are very confused about what dating
yeah.
really is and who they should be and where their journey fits into this
Where
puzzle.
where they fit in, exactly. Yeah, I agree. And I think, in particular, I think the Generation X and the Boomer age group of men, I think, are really struggling. That's what I've picked up and I've discovered. And it feels like, I think the reason is that it's really been more since the Me Too movement, I think. And now men, whereas women find it easier to evolve, and to kind of move with the times and get rid of their learned behavior. It always seems to be quite a natural thing for a woman to do, whether that's because maybe we have a lot closer relationships and we chat more to our children and we kind of see things through a different lens. Whereas a lot of the men just seem to be really struggling. First of all, on the language and the effort and the emotion that they should put into the kind of dating period, what they can say, what they can't say, what's expected of them. I think they're very, very lost at the moment. And sadly, whilst I do think that a lot of those men are beginning to work on themselves and realize that they do need to change, and that's really, really refreshing to see. But there's also, you still get a handful of men in the kind of, especially the boomer age group, who are really struggling to kind of know what to do and how to handle a woman, because of course women today are so very different. And it's not, the men, even the very successful men, are finding it very, very difficult to suddenly, when they've got rid of the wife, or had divorced, etc., and they've started over again. That yeah, they can't get women that are 20 years, 15 years younger so easily anymore. And
Well,
the
certainly
because
not to
women,
commit, Lorraine. They can't get the women to commit. They can get the women
absolutely,
who want the attention, who
yeah,
want the fun and
yeah,
the money spent on them, but not
exactly,
necessarily the ones that want to commit. But it's interesting what
absolutely,
you say, because how men are struggling to play catch up. I think
mm,
women are also struggling with, I'm finding a lot of women don't have empathy. They expect the men to meet them at that level. They're not prepared to work
absolutely.
with the men to bring them up to that level.
I
And
agree. They
that's
haven't
one of
got the
the biggest
patience.
problems. They don't have the
Yeah.
patience. They want it all now, 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 now. The women come
They
out of
don't. They don't. They don't
ships.
seem to want a work in progress man.
No, no.
And they want them to be oven ready,
Yeah.
let's say,
And this
and
is
they
that
are
commodity
struggling.
ready, isn't it? It's almost like Amazon. They want this man to appear and be a
Yeah,
hundred percent ready. Whereas we have to realize we all have, where healing takes place is in a
yeah,
relationship. It's not
absolutely.
you, there's a certain level of healing as a coach, I see it all the time. There's a certain level of healing that takes place when you've come out of that relationship. But
Mm,
especially for men and women who need to reframe what they're looking for, most of that work takes place when you meet somebody and you go
yeah,
on that journey together. Yet women are
mm,
not prepared to be patient and invest in that,
I agree.
give up on men far too quickly. And men are
Mm,
becoming more and more feeling extinct and
yeah,
devalued, actually.
yeah, and a bit lost.
Totally,
I
totally.
mean, it's I mean, you could kind of almost say as a woman, in the same age range, yeah, welcome to my world. Like it's been so difficult for me for all these years. Women have had to struggle in relationships, etc., for hundreds of years. But it's I feel that it will level up at some point. But I absolutely agree. I think that a lot of women and to a certain extent men kind of want to jump into, especially when they get to a certain age, when they get to 50s and 60s and they've been in a relationship before,
Mm.
they almost want to fast forward it until they're a cozy couple, and they don't realize that it's going to start all over again. It's going to take 18 months, 2 years. Not even at that time are you going to be in agreement with everything and have the same opinions, like all the same things. It's just not going to happen. Everybody, by the time they get to that age, are set in their ways in certain respects. And yeah, it's great to learn new things and to come across new interests and to see different point of view, and that's what's stimulating about a relationship and about building it. And if their values are quite similar, then a lot of those differences, you can kind of rub along together, even though there's a lot of differences. But I think that that's one of the things that I see all the time when I get a couple together. The first 6 months, even up to a year, I'm getting them message me, one or the other will
Yeah.
message me in confidence to just say, Lorraine, just use me as a sounding board. I just want to ask, am I overthinking this? Or is
And they
this,
always
they
are.
haven't done this. Yeah. They haven't said this, they haven't said that, we're not doing this, we're not doing that, is this normal? And it just seems that it's taking people in their kind of older years, 50s, 60s, to really understand and comprehend what it's like to be in a relationship. It's not going to be like the relationship that you had that you accumulated over kind of 20 years or 25 years or something.
But
It's
I'm seeing
very,
that
very
even
different.
with younger people that I'm coaching, women in their 30s and 40s, I'm seeing
Mm,
this lack of patience and
yeah.
a lot of comparison. And
Mm,
especially if they've been in a narcissistic relationship, if anyone of any age has been in a narcissistic relationship or particularly toxic or heavy relationship that hasn't ended well,
mm,
what they're
yeah.
then doing is they're attracted to drama, and so anything else
Yeah.
is boring. It's not
Yeah.
exciting. So it's recalibrating
Mm,
their barometers to say, okay, this is what a healthy relationship actually looks like.
yeah.
So I think there is a lot of work to be done with these generations.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But
Yeah. I
it's
agree.
amazing. And
I
as you
think
said, it's
also
not
that,
oven ready. Everyone wants
yeah.
oven ready, but they're not prepared to put the
Yeah.
work in for themselves to accept someone who's not oven ready. And
Yeah.
that's the
And I
difference.
think that's a massive difference as well. That even in the dating period, before you've actually started a fledgling relationship, I think a lot of people don't invest or not prepared to invest any time. They want it to just be happening, just like that. Okay, especially in matchmaking and introductions. Okay, you're introducing me to somebody that's going to be, exactly the right type of person. I don't need to invest any time. So if they don't look exactly right and tick all the boxes on the profile, I'm not interested in meeting them. People don't seem to want to start those conversations, even a video call or,
Yeah,
and I try and encourage everyone, at least have a video call. You do not know
yeah.
what you're going to discover from that person until you have a conversation. And as we all know, most of the couples we get together end up falling in love with somebody who was completely different to who
Always,
they described to us initially.
always.
That's always the case.
Yeah,
And it's that I feel that's our job as a matchmaker to try and, steer that person into what we know as having all this expertise is going to be the best fit for them long term. I think people often view at their next match as being somebody that, yeah, it's going to be great that they can have an amazing quick fling with, that's going to fizzle out in no time. But this is not about that. Matchmaking is about, as you know, Genevieve, it's about finding people that are going to be with you for the long term and that you're going to have a meaningful relationship, that you're going to fit together eventually like a jigsaw puzzle, and I think again, there's a lot of misunderstanding about what people's types are.
yeah.
Because it's not always, if you're an alpha woman, it's not like you're going to get on best with an alpha male.
And
It's
actually, what does an alpha man want from a woman? It doesn't mean that they
yeah,
want you. I think a lot of
yeah,
women in particular come to matchmakers like us and say, this is what I want. And I always say, we're not Amazon Prime. We are
yeah,
not
yeah,
Amazon Prime. Think of us more as eBay for a second-hand model. You
yeah.
know,
That's a
people
good way of
are
looking at it. Yeah,
people are going to come with chinks and work in
yeah,
progress and other things.
mm,
People are not this oven ready. It's like a microwave relationship or something that's a slow burn.
yeah, yeah.
It's something that needs to be. I always say to people, once they give me a list of their superficial ladder,
Mm,
the only thing
yeah.
that's going to happen is they're going to fall off that ladder and fail.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah, I totally agree. It's more about the stuff under the surface, isn't it, Genevieve? It's it's
People are
it's
so
more about the
superficial
things that,
now.
yeah, that they don't really look at the stuff under the surface. They're looking at all the superficial stuff.
But
What
that's
do they look
online
like? Where do
dating.
they live? What job?
Yeah, but that's
Exactly.
online dating.
That's not
Online
matchmaking.
dating. So I think the two
Mm,
big things since we've been working in this industry that have changed is online dating has screwed up people's perception of what a relationship really is.
I
And I think
totally
now
agree.
it's almost about these are the tick boxes that someone has to fit to get past stage
Mm,
one. And the more open someone is, there's been so many times, and I've been fortunate over the years to do matchmaking and events. So people that I've known would be really good together that have both turned each other down, or one's been particularly adamant that it's not right. I then get them together and connect them at an event. And they
Mm,
always
yeah.
say, "Oh, why didn't you introduce me to this person as a match?" Well, I did actually, and you turned them down.
Yeah, you tried. Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
about energy. And I think if we get back, if we can, the biggest gift we can give our clients, whether they're single, if they're trying to heal from a past relationship, is getting back in touch with that energy and ditching that superficial checklist.
I
Because
agree. Mm.
that is the biggest hindrance. And I think the other biggest hindrance, I don't know about you, but I'm on the radio talking almost every week about this, and it drives me insane, is last week I was told, "Oh, what do you think of this TikTok influencer as a dating expert?" And I'm thinking, their advice is completely wrong. And when you look into all these dating experts that are out there giving advice to people now, it's shocking. It's absolutely terrifying. It's a bit like all these weight loss experts that,
Yeah.
yeah, you can lose weight very
Yeah,
quickly, but you'll put it on
it's
and
not
some afterwards.
it's not authentic, and it's not going to find you that harmonious, meaningful relationship. And that's really all we can do as matchmakers, steer and try and move people in the right direction. I try and say to clients when they come, if you're going to come with me and just work in the same way that you have done before and bring all that same dating behavior, how do you expect by just throwing money at it that it's going to change? We don't have a little secret stash of like amazing people that are absolutely spot on, like robot like people that are going to tick all the boxes. A stash of these people hidden away in a room ready to start dishing out to our clients when they join. We have a cross section of society, normal society that's out there, and that's the highs, the lows, the good, the bad. They all come bundled up into one. There are none of us that are perfect.
No.
And I think that's the big issue. People are just not prepared to invest the time, to not only understand themselves more, but to understand what a relationship actually is and what they're going to get out of it, and to understand their approach to dating and finding someone. And they come to the experts, and that's what is disappointing for me. When people come to the experts, they come to us and we have the answers, and we've been doing it for so many years. And the people that aren't really prepared to invest and throw themselves at your expertise and say, yes, just sort me out and find me someone, I'll go along with anything that you say. And yeah, it's not gonna happen overnight. It's that's why we have 6-month memberships, annual memberships, because it's going to take time. People are all different stages, and it's going to take time. It's about evolving, helping the client to evolve to a certain space, to when they're absolutely, ready to discover that person that's going to be just right for them. So it can be, although it's very rewarding, especially when people do get together and you've got them together, it's very, very rewarding. But it can also be very frustrating, as you know, for a
Oh, incredibly
matchmaker.
frustrating. And, there are times where I'm sure you've done the same. You give the client what they want, but they don't really know what they want. And then they find fault with that. And then you go, okay, now let's do it my way. Let's do it the way that
Yeah.
you've paid to do
Mhm.
it. But Lorraine, I want to ask a question because I don't know about you, but I'm finding there's a big difference between people in their 20s and 30s and those in their
Yeah.
sort of 40s, 50s, 60s with their dating approach right now. What do you
Mhm.
think those biggest differences are within the age ranges that you're seeing?
So I think that it's a strange one, really, because there's a lot of different types of behavior and approach. I think that the younger men coming through in their 30s seem to be a lot more open, a lot more, their egos aren't as kind of, I always put the egos on a scale. Every man has one, and it's either right up here or right down there. what I think with the, perhaps the Generation X, the boomer men, I think their struggles and their approach to dating, it makes them suddenly start to feel, even the most successful, confident men, inwardly, when things aren't really working for them, in terms of, finding what they want to find, the ego comes out, and all you want to do, for me, when you see a client who's got to a certain place where the ego's landed, it's kind of, it's very rewarding. But there's often a period that the guy goes through in that kind of age group where his approach is, his insecurity comes out via his ego.
Mm.
So he'll his approach and his behavior will almost be like you would expect from a teenage boy. The types of things they were doing when they were teenagers. It's almost like they revert back. Hands all over somebody on their first date, etc. A man of 60. You just think, really, have you not learned that yet? But
Well, I call it Peter Pan syndrome,
yeah,
I've got a psychological theory that I have tested out, and I've spoken to a lot of psychologists about this. And what actually happens is they go back to the time when they were dating before. So and it's very true. So if I've got men of 50, 60 who perhaps haven't dated since their 20s, they
yeah,
almost revert back to,
revert back.
okay,
Yeah,
brain. They can't tell the difference between what age they are. And women are just as
yeah,
bad. It's not just the men. So guys, don't think this is just about you. Women can be,
yeah.
in fact, women are worse in some ways because they go into the whole visual side, and they want men that look
Yeah,
so much younger, yet they're not prepared to look in the mirror themselves. And I think we both,
yeah,
men and women, do that. So they go back into this Peter Pan mode of thinking, okay, last time I dated, I was 20.
mm.
That worked really well for me
Yeah.
then. So what I'm going
But
to
it
do,
was a
I'm
different
going to,
time and you're at a different
yeah,
age.
it's almost like
So
they've been in
that's,
a coma and have woken up in a different
yeah,
century now.
yeah.
I know it's
And then
mm,
the approach for that, I feel, with women around the same sort of age, maybe women, yeah, Generation X women and boomer women and women maybe 45 plus, is I don't think I've had a single woman that has come to me that hasn't said, everyone tells me I look years
yes.
younger than I am. And so
Oh, I 100%. If you and I had a pound for every time
yeah.
someone said that to us, we could have retired by now. Honestly, Lorraine, we really could have.
And it's like, I feel, I can't understand, first of all, why somebody wants to look younger than they are. It's great to just embrace the age range that you are. If you look good for your age, that's brilliant. We all aspire to look good for
Yeah.
whatever age range we are, whatever age group we're in. But to convince ourselves and to actually, announce this to the world, that, yeah, everybody tells me I look younger, and they are really saying to you, I don't want to meet men the same age, because in their mind, as we all do, look, how many times do we look at policemen or newscasters on the television and we say, oh my god, is he 12? They look so young to us now. But what we don't realize is that we too are aging, and although we try and convince ourselves we're not, because we're wearing the trendiest clothes and we do look our age. Most of the women that say that, obviously you do get people that drink from the fountain of youth, but it's not just about how you look. It's about how you present yourself, how you speak. Every different age group has a kind of, a way. You can't wind back the clock. You've grown up in a certain era, and you are a product of that era. Whether you hang around with people 20 years younger or whatever, you're always going to be. So I think that's the approach, the mistake that a lot of women make in that age range, especially.
Yeah.
um and I think that with the younger people, I think the younger guys in their 30s seem to be hitting it quite well. They have this really good respect for women.
Yes.
They kind of, they've started to, help women to understand that you know, it's not really right that they should be paying all the time they go out on dates, etc. You know, women are earning just as much as guys now, especially in that age group.
Mm.
And, you know, it's not really fair to expect the guy to pick up the tab. So I think you know, they kind of have a way with them, the younger guys, you know, getting themselves across. And I think they do come across very well. I think perhaps it's the younger women in their 30s that are struggling a little bit because they're on the cusp. They still want this kind of gentlemanly, you know, charming kind of guy. But that's really from another era, you know. Maybe they're thinking too much about those types of things instead of thinking, you know, that's not really important now. You know, it's about, I think the most important now is about connecting with somebody emotionally. And I think that's something the younger guys in their 30s have really seemed to got to grips with. You know, they're more emotionally in touch
I think that's
with
what's missing with older men, actually.
yeah,
The
yeah,
biggest thing. I
yeah,
mean, I was single for 7 years, and when I was
yeah,
dating after my divorce, I found that was the biggest thing that was missing was that emotional connection, the emotional
yeah,
intelligence, that emotional
mm,
intimacy. Um,
yeah.
that men after
That's true. That's really what you miss most, isn't it, when you're out of a relationship? But a lot of people don't actually realize that until they're back in a relationship, you
Mm.
know.
So, when I found my chap, that we've been together a few years now, and that was just in abundance. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is definitely the one but it was that I was drawn to, and I think so many people are drawn to all the superficial things rather than
yeah. They overlook the
looks
important things.
phase. We all get older.
Mm,
We're all going to change looks wise. But when I've interviewed older couples, the thing that everyone has said to me is, I'm with my best friend. I'm with someone that gets me.
mm,
We are a team. It's not I versus
yeah,
I. It's not competitive. And I think this is
that's
where
exactly it.
things
Right.
go wrong. Mm.
Yeah, the competitive nature of the relationship disappears. Whereas I think there's a lot of competitiveness in younger relationships.
Especially from the women,
And they,
more so from the
yeah,
there's this
yeah,
whole thing, and I
mm,
did a workshop called From the Boardroom to the Bedroom. And
yeah.
it's something that
That sounds good.
yeah, it's something I run from women to get them out of their ego in boardroom
Yeah,
state and
yeah,
into not necessarily a sexy bedroom state. It's nothing to do with sex, but it's to do with
yeah,
coming out of that ego and into what is actually needed to create a
mm,
long-lasting relationship. And I don't know about you, Lorraine. I get a lot of people saying, but it's so easy online. I'm meeting all these younger men online, especially women who are older. Oh, of course
yeah,
they are. But how many of those relationships have worked? They wouldn't be
yeah.
singles talking to
And
us.
they wouldn't be coming to you. That's that. I get that all the time where they say, "I'm getting all these guys, you know, you know, but do you realize why those guys, you know, they're looking for like a Miss Quick Fix, you know,
Yeah,
Miss for right now, a Miss right now, a Miss Quick Fix, you know,
yeah.
somebody that it's not just necessarily just for sex, you know, you do have relationships. I had a relationship before I met my partner 20 years ago. You know, I had a younger partner, but we both knew that it wasn't going to last. You know, we both knew it was just, yeah, let's just have this fun, be together. It's almost like, yeah, like they call now the cuffing season, you know, from the autumn through the winter, you know, to just get somebody just for that little period of time to hang out
Or
with.
just to boost
Yeah,
your confidence or get you
yeah,
back out there again.
absolutely. It's a great. I'm not condemning those types of relationships because they can be very good for you, for both of you. Um, but don't expect them to last. You know, don't if you are looking for a long term and you don't want to be doing this all over again in 3 months, 6 months, then yeah, start to look for different things. I think one thing that's really helped with our matchmaking approach, which you know obviously has then in turn helped with the clients, is we started doing Enneagram personality testing. So that really shows the client more than anything. When you show the client what their most dominant features, I mean, everybody has a little bit of everything in them, but it's the Enneagram system shows you your most dominant features. You know, so you're 30% this, you're 22% this. These are things that your personality type is most dominant. And then it's about okay, so if you're most dominant in these traits, these aspects, what type of man or what type of woman, whatever whoever's taken the test is going to be a good long-term fit for you. It's not going to necessarily mirror, well, it isn't going to mirror who your types are. If you're 20% this, 30% that, it's not like, okay, here's another person who's that. It's actually the other things. It's okay, this type two is going to most fit a type nine. And I think what that does help the client to realize is that, yeah, I shouldn't really be looking for somebody, a personality type that mirrors my own. if
Mm.
if I want a long-term, harmonious, meaningful relationship, I should actually be looking for the person that's going to slot in nicely to my and understand my personality type. So that's been really, really helpful.
It's
It's
interesting,
something
isn't
that,
it? Different approaches.
yeah, it's something that
Yeah.
you kind of, most matchmakers kind of understand without even really going into the psychology of it. But I think it's just as helpful for the client to actually look at, okay, I didn't actually
Sometimes you need the
realize that this
evidence,
is the
don't you?
personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
that's
use the
that's
value-based stuff from Dr. Terry Orbuck to show the same
yeah,
thing.
that's
I
another
think
one.
sometimes
Yeah,
people need to see something to give them the evidence,
yeah,
prove what you're saying is right. As you say,
yeah,
we do it so intuitively because we've been doing
yeah,
it so long. We kind of know this as an underlying bit of what we do. But I think there's
yeah.
also an element of this. I don't know about you, but I'm seeing a lot more people who have recently come out of relationships. And when you're working with them, you realize, well, actually, they should never have come out of that relationship. And I'm getting a lot
Oh,
more
all the
people
time.
back
Mm,
together doing the work with them
mm,
to recouple
yeah,
from a dating perspective. So I'm getting a lot more people
mm,
coming to me saying, I'm out of this couple. Well, why have you guys split up? Let's look at why you two have split up. And through that process,
mm,
they realize we actually never should have done. And it was
yeah,
stupid, it was superficial. The grass isn't always
yeah.
greener. She says wearing green. And
Mm,
there's all these things. So I think the role that we're doing is a lot bigger and wider now on the relationship
yeah.
whole spectrum
Hmm.
than it was many years ago. So I think that's changed a
Yeah, I
lot
agree.
post-COVID.
Mm,
I think COVID, when people have been cooped up together, I've kind of thought, okay, I've had enough. My friend who's dating's having a great time meeting all these people. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to one
mm,
couple and I'm going to go and try my hand at dating. It's not easy, guys. It's really not easy.
yeah. It isn't, and the thing is, it's like you say. I think, especially through COVID, a lot of people, they start to build up resentment. They're together all the time. They start to build resentment towards each other. I'm doing more of this, you're doing more of that. But instead of communicating, and that's the biggest thing in a relationship. To get to the point where you can communicate anything, where you don't store it all up. You
Yeah.
can, you're not frightened to say something. I totally agree. If you've been in a very toxic relationship, I wouldn't suggest going back to that and trying to
No,
figure
no,
it out,
no,
because
no.
a toxic
No point.
relationship is bad for everyone. But when you've been, it's mostly the couples that are actually still, they'll say, "Oh, I'm really, really great friends with my ex. We really get on, and but then you think, what more do you think you're going to get from another
Yeah.
relationship? Yeah, you might have the sex might be great for a little while, but it's only going to turn back to, as any relationship. You've got to be the one to start, bringing new things. You'd be both together as a team, bringing new things into your intimacy. And also, I think it's about, the intimacy is so much better and enjoyable when you've got this mutual respect for each other. It's like it's so much healthier, it's so much more authentic. And
And that
being in a
friendship as
long-term
well.
relationship.
That friendship,
Yeah, and
if you've got the friendship, then that's key. And also, how do I always say to people, okay, so if you met someone who had a really, really good, strong relationship with their ex, and do you think that other person's going to feel confident and comfortable, or feel that they're
yeah,
competing with that ex
yeah,
all the time?
yeah.
I'm not saying that you've got to have a horrible relationship with your ex, not at all. And we do a lot of
Mm,
you know, how to co-parent and everything else. But I think it's
yeah,
one of those things as to if you've got such a good relationship and a close relationship, is it worth looking at what that relationship is going to look like when you're in
mm,
another relationship to someone else and how you manage that?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
it becomes very difficult
yeah.
and
I
sometimes
agree.
contentious between different people. It's very
Yeah. And
interesting.
it's the reasons as well that people come out. And again, like we were talking about earlier, their expectations of what the next one is going to be like. And, when I think it's ridiculous when you have, women in their 50s and their 60s sort of saying, oh, I want a man with a full head of hair and really good teeth are really important to me, and then you get men that are kind of, yeah, like I'm just not attracted to women the same age, it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
it's just an attraction thing, and I
That's
can't.
another thing
And
we
yeah,
could earn a lot of money
oh,
on, Lorraine. Every time
abs-
we hear that thing.
it's just so conflicted, the men in their 50s and 60s don't seem to want to get together, seem to be very reluctant to get together with the women in the same age range. The women are just as reluctant to get together with the same men, unless they're like you know somebody that drinks from the fountain of youth and it looks like a movie star or something. So it's like it's a very conflicted, trying to actually, when they actually get together and try something out, the magic happens and they
And they're very
realize what.
surprised. And I'm always
Yeah,
like, well,
yeah,
I wasn't surprised. They said, aren't you surprised that it's what? No, not at all. That's
yeah,
why I put you together. It's
yeah.
like recently I've put a couple together. He's in his 80s, she's in her 70s. He only wanted women in their
Wow.
50s and 60s because he felt that women in their 70s wouldn't have the same energy. And I thought, well, this is madness. So,
Yeah, yeah,
it's all about energetic connection. It's not about
yeah,
age. Take age completely
absolutely.
out of
Yeah.
the equation and look at energy and look at values and look at
Your
what you
energy aura.
want.
Yeah. It is because again, like the people that are you can have that high sort of energy aura well into your 70s and 80s and more,
My
my
grandmother
neighbor
did
in
when
her
she was
90s.
100. Yes.
Yeah. And you have people that high energy that like to kind of plan ahead, that are always on the go, that and then you get people, not to say that one is wrong and one is right, but then you get people that perhaps a bit more spontaneous. They'll just do something when they feel like doing it. They don't like to plan too much ahead. They don't like too many things in the diary because it's a bit overwhelming, etc. But putting those two people together, if they're at two far ends of the scale, it can just be a nightmare, because the high energy person just eventually starts to feel like they're pulling teeth, because they can't get this person to commit to doing anything. And the lower paced energy person feels so overwhelmed, oh, I'm always being like, taken here, taken
Yeah.
there, organized
Pulled in
here,
20
organized there.
different directions.
Yeah. So again, that's one of the things that couples don't tend to look at, or don't tend to try
You
and
can't see that
discover
on
in those
a
early
yeah, and you can't see
discovery
that on a
dates.
profile, can you? And you cannot
No.
see that from looking
Yeah.
at someone online. It doesn't work.
Yeah. But we've, as matchmakers, when we're doing the evaluation of our clients and we're kind of getting to know them, we know those types of things. We understand about their values. We know where their head's at. We know what kind of energy, or we know what their kind of ultimate vision is. Of course, we all have visions, and our vision obviously sometimes changes. But just kind of knowing the kind of direction that somebody is going in, it's things like that that can be crucial to a relationship. That, just as you say, Genevieve, you cannot pick that up from a profile. That's going to take, a few days to, if you're dating online, that's going to take a lot longer, a few months to discover those sorts of things. At least with matchmaking, we can kind of leapfrog them because we've discovered all those things, and we're gelling people together on those aspects.
Yeah.
Of course, we're trying to get, as many of their kind of, good to haves and wish lists. Of course, we're trying to build those into the equation. But when somebody, will say to me, "Oh, I'm only going to go out with the men over 5'10", and they're only 5'2", and things like that," I just don't. Or they say, oh, I don't want to, be traveling more than 30 minutes or more than an hour or something. If you meet somebody and you make the right connection, you're going to make it work. It doesn't matter where they live. And eventually you're probably going to end up together anyway, wherever you are. So it's just like, just go with the flow. And I often say to people, do you want to be in a relationship that's absolutely, you're going to wait all this time and be single to in the search of a relationship that you might not ever find? Or are you just going to say, okay, well, let's just see what happens. Let's just go with the flow and see, and it's those people that get coupled up so much more quickly
Oh,
and in a happy
absolutely.
relationship,
Absolutely. So I've got
you
two
know.
other questions, Lorraine, that I want us to explore. But we're running out of time, but this one in particular I think is really important. Is
Mhm.
And I know the answer, but I think it'll be really good for us to just play with this one a little bit. How many
Yeah.
times do you hear after the first date there was no spark? There was
Oh
no
God.
chemistry.
Yeah.
I
I,
always say
I,
I'm glad there was no spark, there was no chemistry, because it means, if there
yeah.
was, that's lust, and lust doesn't last.
Yes.
As long
And
as you're,
that usually fizzles out just as quickly as it started.
it
It's
does.
it's the slow burners. I think the crucial things are the rapport you have. The do you feel energized after meeting that person or speaking to that person? Do they make you smile? Do you have a mutual respect for each other? Is there a good rapport? Is there not any long silences? Or even if there are, do you feel comfortable in those silences with each other? And they're the crucial things that people should be looking for.
Absolutely. But don't you find you
Because
ask those questions and they say yes to all of that? Yes, but there was still no spark, or I didn't feel I wanted to sort of jump into bed with them.
ridiculous.
Well,
Yeah.
it's you have
And
to pass
especially as
the
you get older,
vaccination. Yeah.
especially as
So
you
it's
get
back
older,
to Peter
we,
Pan, isn't it? They go back to Peter Pan.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had that
You
with
don't,
my
you
first
don't,
wife, and it's like, well, you're not 20. How old were you? You're not 20 anymore. Hello.
yeah. It's not to say you're not going to find that spark. Most people do, in long-term relationships as they get to know them, and that's the whole part of the discovery, and the excitement and what makes it stimulating, and the relationship so stimulating is to get to the point where it's like, yeah, you get into the intimacy on such a much more um healthier ground. Whereas, all the fumbling around when it's done too quickly at the beginning, and when you haven't even realized if you're compatible yet. If you're not going to be compatible on an emotional level, how the hell do you expect to be compatible on a intimacy level? It's just not going to happen. And like you say, if it does, it's just a lustful moment. It's not going to last. But yeah, trying to convince people that falling in love isn't about that spark. It's about the journey of discovery, to getting under, taking off those layers each time you meet until you're getting deeper and deeper and learning about that person, their history, their mannerisms, their reactions, that's what falling in love is all about. Not, like we spoke about earlier, an oven ready,
I know.
person that you're just going to like on the
Or
movies.
even
It
microwave
doesn't
ready.
happen.
Ping.
It just doesn't happen.
So finally, Lorraine, I want to hear and I've got two really funny ones, and I want to hear your most ridiculous reasons for not seeing someone again. So when people,
Oh
you,
wow! There's so
I know
many
there
to
are so
choose
many.
from.
Just pick one or two, because I think this is something that always makes people laugh. And I always ask matchmakers this.
Yeah, yeah. So I think there was an older couple, and the the lady said well, their interests were both gardening, and they seemed to get on, and when they came back, all the feedback was really good. And the lady said, I think she was they were both in their 60s, and the lady said, but Lorraine, it's that he does he's more into gardening, for vegetables. He grows vegetables and things. And for me, it's more about, flowers and like the beauty. And I just don't think that's going to work as a relationship.
Wow, well,
And I
you can
thought,
be fed and you can look at
really?
lovely things.
I mean, nothing else about what they talked about or their other interests. It was like purely the gardening. It was like, you have like, crazy cat ladies or
Yeah.
crazy dog men. This was a crazy gardening lady. It was like gardening must have been her whole life, and the fact that he was into growing his vegetables. So let's just say, I think she foresaw, on their allotment or in their garden, that there was going to be like a lot of a lot of toxicity, because they were both thinking about growing different things. So yeah, that was the most ridiculous reason why they didn't want to see each other. Well, it was actually, he was quite happy to merge his vegetables with the flowers. But
What a shame. What a
I
shame.
know. What
I
about
couldn't
you?
do
What
it.
was
I think the most ridiculous one I ever had is someone was on about their seventh, eighth date and
yeah.
all going really, really well. And they'd gone away together. They'd had a weekend together. And when I got the feedback on the Monday or the Tuesday, the woman was raving. She said it was wonderful. Everything was really good. And all he could say was, I can't possibly see her again. And I was like, why? I've had such positive feedback from her. And he was telling me how wonderful she was and everything else. And then he said, I have a pet hate for blue toothpaste because it marks the sink and she uses blue toothpaste.
Oh
And I said, well, did you
my
talk to
God.
her about this? And then I couldn't believe, when you just think, I actually said to him, are you having a lot? Is this some sort of joke? He was
Yeah.
like, no, this is
And
really
it's
serious.
Yeah, it is. I think sometimes people can't actually put their finger on why they don't. And I think for those reasons, it's usually because they are absolutely not ready for a relationship. So
Absolutely.
they've made up this ridiculous, reason and excuse because,
And
but I
I
have
told
had
him how
people that,
ridiculous it actually sounded, and he
yeah,
agreed with me, but he had this whole thing about nope, can't possibly do anything with
yeah,
blue toothpaste. And I said, well, then buy her white toothpaste if you like her this much.
yeah,
Or say to her, I'd really prefer you to use white toothpaste, or here's some toothpaste to use at my house. It's like
yeah,
seriously, but I do think I think it's right. I think if people aren't quite ready for a proper
yeah,
relationship, they will make up the
they'll
most
find, mm,
stupid excuses. And I actually said to him, if
yeah,
that's all you can think of, then maybe we need to do some coaching. He wasn't a coaching client,
yeah.
because there's obviously
And
more
move them.
to this
There's a
than
lot
meets
of
the
clients
eye.
actually that I've moved on to coaching, like two or three introductions in, and I've said, that perhaps they need to, work on themselves or, work with somebody to help them to get to that point where they're ready, because you do, I mean, you get people that describe what they want from a relationship, and then when you introduce them to somebody and then that all starts to happen, and then they kind of come back, a little bit like a rabbit in their headlights, and it's just going all too quickly, and I'm saying, that's what you described to me, that's what you said, that's the feeling you said you wanted, where it was going to be heady and you were going to, but when it actually happens, they're like, oh, is
They're
this
not
moving
ready.
too quickly?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not ready. They aren't.
so yeah, and I think so many people look for love for all the wrong reasons. There's no reason not to stay. I think it's good to stay unattached. And if you're happy, if you're really happy and you've got a lovely life going for you, don't be kind of don't be bullied into trying to find somebody just to meet other people's kind of expectations, and like, to other people are thinking, oh, you should be with somebody, you're so nice, you're so lovely, you should find somebody. If you're absolutely happy in yourself and you're really at ease with yourself, the likeliness is that your Miss Right or your Mr. Right will find you quite organically. You don't really have to go out there and find them, because when you're full of joy and full of the love of life, and that shows, that oozes out of you.
Agreed.
And I think rather than putting so much pressure on yourself to do all these things, and then yeah, putting a bit of a slight on that great life that you've got, I think it's best to just rub along, get yourself out more if that's the case, and more, maybe a bit more social things where you're meeting new groups of people, especially if you're in your 50s or 60s or 70s. That's a good idea, to start little clubs and things where you're going to make new friends, a new network. But in terms of putting yourself under pressure for just for peer pressure, I don't agree that. And I do feel that a lot of people that come to matchmaking are doing it for that purpose. All my friends are matched up now, or I'm the only one that's single, and they just but
Yeah.
even though they're having a great life and they're really happy, they've still got a great job, their interests, their friendships, etc. They feel pushed to doing that. So I think it's good to ask yourself when you're going into this, what do you actually really feel that is missing, from your life? So
Lorraine,
yeah.
I could talk all day. We really could.
It could go on forever. No, it's been such fun. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. And I
Thank
hope
you for
anyone who's
inviting me on.
listening, oh, it's a pleasure. And we'll have to get you back again, as we can explore other bits of this incredible journey that we've had over the last almost 30, well,
Yeah,
over 30 years, actually, I think, isn't it? We're in our
yeah,
third
yeah.
decade. But thank you so much. And if people want to get hold of Lorraine, how do they get hold of you, Lorraine? How do people connect with you? What's the best way?
So yeah, come through club introductions. We're easily found in the Google search. So look up club introductions or just type my name in, Lorraine Adams, and you'll be able to find me very easily.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lorraine. And thank you, everybody. If you've enjoyed
Thank
this,
you.
then like, share, and tag in a friend who's single that needs to hear this because there are so many people that I think will find this conversation really valuable. So thank you very much, Lorraine, for joining us today.
It's a
Thank you.
pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thanks, Genevieve. You have a great day. Bye.
Thank you.